Snafu never change. Never change, Snafu. You wanna know why? Because this series, I never imagined I would love it so much. Like, I never realized how much I could actually sit down and enjoy a new rom-com. Because majority of old Chibits know how I feel about the rom-com genre. Majority do. I personally don't like watching a lot of rom-coms because I've seen quite a few in the past, and majority of them usually seem to be very similar. They're not all similar, but some of them are, so usually I avoid the rom-com genre. I never believed I would see a series like Snafu that would be this damn entertaining. So the thing is, okay, you could consider Snafu as the deconstruction of the rom-com genre. That's really what you could label this series as, especially after multiple episodes of just season 2 alone. It's just so crazy. I've never seen a series do shit like this when it comes to rom-coms. Like, Snafu is definitely a very, very unique gem. It's a very unique gem I would never give up. Like, the experience I've had with this series is unbelievable. It is unbelievable, the experience I've had watching this series, because I just can't believe a rom-com series could be this damn deep with movements, as I've covered multiple times. I just never could believe I would see a series like this in the rom-com genre. So props to the studio that is animating this. If it wasn't for the studio properly adapting something like this, I don't know if they're properly adapting it because I haven't read the light novel, but if it wasn't for the studio putting their effort into this series, putting good budget production along with, you know, good stuff going on in this series, I don't feel like Snafu would be that good. I don't think it would. So to see how they can emphasize inner monologues through just movements, it's impressive. So instead of, you know, rehashing things I've talked about once before, let's talk about this episode of Snafu. So, Snafu Season 2, this episode, I think this is episode 8 or 9, one of those episodes, I forget what episode number this is. Thing is, okay, this episode of Snafu, one of my favorites, instantly one of my favorites, because I can relate with this episode quite a bit, actually. I can really relate. I can, and that's scary. So, let's dive into something that I instantly related with this episode. I couldn't believe what I saw. So, when it comes to Disneyland, I've seen these type of parodies a lot in anime and manga. It's nothing really new. But usually when it comes to Disneyland parodies, they don't usually show exactly certain attractions that are very similar to Disneyland. For instance, in this episode of Snafu, we got to see Space Mountain. And I didn't expect to see Space Mountain animated like it was in this episode, because the interior design was very similar to how Space Mountain was when I went to Space Mountain when I was 10 years old. Yeah, I went to Disneyland in Florida. I was, you know, born and raised in Florida until around like I was 12 and I moved to Tennessee. But for my 10th birthday, I remember going to Disneyland for like a day. And it was very fun because Space Mountain was one of my favorite attractions in Disneyland. And to see how in this episode we got to see like Space Mountain's interior design, it just reminded me of the time when I walked through that hallway and I was waiting in line to get onto the ride and go up Space Mountain, the roller coaster. It was so fucking fun. And so I could really relate with this episode. It's so relatable seeing certain attractions in this episode of Snafu. Like, it reminds me of the time when, that panda ride, it reminded me of the Small World ride that was on the boats. I don't know if you, or any of you, know the Small World attraction. You have these little gnome dwarf fucking creatures singing, "It's a small world after all, it's a small world after all." Yeah, I'm a beautiful singer. I know it just busted everybody's eardrums. I know you're like, fuck you, Chibi, don't do that shit again. Sorry about that. I had to give you all the pain I experienced, because the pain I experienced from that song was 1,000 times greater. You want to know why? Because when I went to Disneyland, the ride fucking broke down, and I was stuck in there for 2.5 damn hours hearing that same song over and over and over and over again. 2 hours. That fucking sucked. It fucking sucked. But enough about that. Let's get back to the review of Snafu. I got a little bit off topic, but I don't know. I don't know how much of you actually enjoy seeing some Chibi backstory. So anyways, thing is, okay, besides the Space Mountain stuff and the, you know, panda that reminded me a lot of Small World, the episode was very realistic for so many different angles. Like, in the way the episode was perceived from me as a viewer of the series. It was so realistic when it came to the character interactions, to the dialogue, to the transitions, along with the movements. Just everything in this episode felt very realistic and something you would actually see in everyday life. And personally, I'm shocked to see something like that, because it's rare to accomplish a feat to where you can make something seem just so realistic and still retain that entertainment as if it's still an anime. It's very strange, because on paper, this episode was just an amusement park episode. On paper. I think about it. Does that sound like something that would be 10 out of 10 amazing? No, it does not. That is the beauty of Snafu. It could turn something that usually is very cliche and bad into something fucking amazing. I guess the way they actually execute some of these things is just something you don't normally see, especially with this episode, because it wasn't the standard drama you would see, or the cutesy sitting on the bench going on a Ferris wheel and stuff like that. It was nothing like that. When it came to this episode, it was very down-to-earth, mature. It was like a bunch of friends going to an amusement park and having fun. And especially when it came to, like, the picture-taking scene, oh my god, that reminds me so much of stuff that's happened, like, you know, when someone just takes a random picture of you and you don't want a picture taken. I remember that shit. That's happened quite a bit to me, so it's fucking crazy how Snafu can be just so realistic. It really is. And things are, what I want to point out with this episode is the Ishiki moment at the end of the episode. Oh my god, man, my heart was breaking when I saw that, because Ishiki has quickly moved up into one of my favorite female characters of the series. Some could say she's bitchy, some could say she's kind of annoying, but personally, I enjoy Ishiki as a character, the way she acts, just her personality and stuff like that. And getting to see how she was kind of turned down in this episode, it's very obvious, like, you know, how she was rejected by Hayato in this episode. It's sad, because you see the look on her face, like, she was really distraught and upset, and she started running away crying, so I'm sad for her. I feel very bad that happened. I mean, I'm happy enough that Hayato decided to turn her down and say no, like he didn't just, you know, play around and dick around, you know, just being an asshole, not saying a yes or no. I'm glad Hayato as a person had the balls to say no and reject her, but I'm sad that she got rejected, because, you know, we do know she does really care about Hayato a lot, and so it's kind of sad. So, besides that, which is going to probably be one main course of drama next week, we have the beginning part of the episode, where Hachiman, he's very distraught or embarrassed about what he did in the previous episode when he cried in front of them and he was sad and upset and he wanted something genuine. You could tell with the awkward reactions in this episode, he was very embarrassed. And I personally enjoy that, especially at the beginning of this episode when his little sister is like, identity. I love that shit. I love that English so much. It's like, identity. Oh god, man, that's so great. So yeah, I mean, that's this episode of Snafu. There's a little bit more details in, you know, middle of everything, but still, episode, beautiful. Yui still best girl. Yui, fucking best girl. Fucking best girl, Yui. Best girl. Best girl, best girl, best girl. So, yeah, y'all have a wonderful day, or night, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.